forgot I didn't have a microphone in my face. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be talking about my Evo 8, specifically idling. I've been having an idle issue with this car for quite a few years now. I don't daily drive it, so every once in a while when I can, buy a part or figure out how to fix it or drive it, whatever, like it takes me a long time, unfortunately, because, it's all out of pocket. So, and I do have another car to drive every day. When I get a moment and I get the parts and stuff like that, I try to fix the idle, but it has been an ongoing problem for quite a few years now, probably say 3 or 4 years, which is kind of insane to think about. It is something that happened right out of the blue. This is what we're trying to figure out. So this video is going to be really wordy. I'm going to try to explain everything I've done to the car and then try to figure out what the issue is. I'm probably not going to resolve it in this video. I just want to be flat out honest with you guys. I'm not feeling hopeful for how many things I've done that it's going to get fixed, but I've narrowed it down to just a couple things. So I'll explain that at the end, what I think it actually could be. But first, let me talk about everything that I've done to the car up to this point to try to resolve this idle issue. It's unbelievable, man. Like I can't even tell you guys. All right, let's jump into it. I'm probably not going to go in order of how I fix things. To be honest with you, I don't remember in which order I did things, but I'm going to start off with the most obvious and it's usually the cheapest, right? It's scanning the code. The codes. There's a few that came up over time, and oh man, I got a little scratch on this freaking valve cover. That's a bummer. Where'd that come from? I gotta figure that out. Shoot, sorry. This thing, I want to keep this as mint as possible. Anyways, so one of the codes that came up is I believe it's P0170. I don't have any codes at the moment, but if I drive the car long enough, that code usually comes back up, and it usually means that I'm running really rich. But that code, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the actual code, that it could be a million freaking things, right? So aside from that code itself, usually one of the things that you look for when trying to fix an idle on the Evo 8 is if you've got any leaks, right? So do you have a boost leak at all? I don't. I've actually replaced several things to alleviate that. I mean, it didn't help at all, right? So my upper intercooler pipe is fairly new. Like I've had it for several years, but I don't drive this car often anyways. Everything is tight. There's no leak that came through there when I tested it at all. The only one that I was really concerned about was the lower intercooler pipe. I used to have a really crappy one. When I got into the accident, I replaced the factory one that was dented up with a really crappy Greddy one, but the Greddy was a kit. I only had the lower intercooler pipe, and that pipe was 2 pieces, so there's a lot of fail points there. I replaced it fairly recently with a Mishimoto 1 piece. It's really nice. Tested boost leak, nothing there. So there's obviously nothing in the intercooler, none of that, right? So that's not where the problem is. One of the other things, usually when you have idle problems on this car, is usually the idle air control valve. I'm on my 4th one, right? So I figured the factory one failed, so I bought a couple like cheap aftermarket ones, not OEM, and those tend to fail as well, right? So one of them after a little while worked and then it failed. But I don't think, because of the failure points now that I know that that's not what the problem is, I just kept replacing them. Like, there's no way that there's that many. So I finally went OEM, and it helped a little bit, but it still didn't cure the problem. So idle air control valve wasn't the issue. One of the other issues that code usually can bring up is because it's running rich, it's reading something incorrectly. And the reason why I'm pointing to the exhaust manifold is because I noticed when I took off that heat shield that the old exhaust manifold, which was the factory one, the stock one, was cracked actually. Between runners 1 and 2, it was completely shattered from one side to the other. Like it just was completely apart. So I replaced that because that code usually means that there's an air leak before the O2 sensor. Replaced it, it didn't fix the problem. So far, we've replaced the exhaust manifold, we've replaced the lower intercooler pipe, we've replaced the idle air control valve several times. Let's keep going. Let's figure out what it is, right? So the next thing I replaced, if I'm not mistaken, was actually the battery, because sometimes the battery light would come on, giving apparently there's not enough juice or something like that, like the little battery meter would keep coming on. And so I replaced the battery. It wasn't the battery. Maybe it's actually the alternator, because if the alternator itself is not giving enough juice to essentially everything in the engine bay, right? So the injectors and the spark plugs and all that stuff, then it's just not going to idle properly, especially when that little battery light comes on the dash. That's usually an indicator of either a dead battery or an alternator. I'm on my third alternator. That hasn't fixed it, right? Because the first one I thought failed on me after maybe a couple thousand miles. I still actually have the factory one sitting in the box just in case this one fails again, because this is a this one is an aftermarket one that I got from like O'Reilly's or AutoZone or something. I forgot where Duralast is from. I don't know. Anyways, so I'm replacing. You guys are trying to see a trend here, right? I'm trying to brainstorm, trying to figure out, like, is it an electrical issue? Is it what is it? What is going on here? What's the thing? Right? So every time the code keeps coming back, I keep replacing things that could be associated with that code or a few other specific codes. The next thing I replaced, because it's running rich, right, is the O2 sensor. Well, that O2 sensor that was in the car has 127,000 miles, is the factory O2 sensor. So I was like, well, maybe that's it. That's got to be it, because if it's 120 something thousand miles on that one, surely at this point it's failed, right? Because I've already replaced the exhaust manifold. The next thing in line for that is that, right? All the gaskets are new before the O2 sensor, so surely that's got to be it. So I replaced the O2 sensor on it. I went with a Denso one because I don't know if the factory one exists anymore. I can't remember. But I went with it because it's significantly cheaper anyways, and Denso makes really good stuff. So replaced it. It didn't fix it. It did not fix the problem. I'm still running super rich. What else have I done, man? The next obvious step is to finally check to see if maybe there's something going on with the ECU, something going on with the tune. I don't know, right? So next step was bust out the laptop, try to read it, try to figure out why it's running so rich, what is going on. And that's what I did. So I went in and started messing with the injector scaling, right? Because that could be it. If it's running rich, maybe it's dumping too much fuel in the car. Pretty obvious. And I tweaked that injector scaling multiple times. And the injector scaling from the tuner that I got this car tuned at was spot on. Because every time I changed it, either higher or lower on the in the scaling, it wouldn't start the car at all. Either there's not enough fuel going in or way too much fuel going in, and it just wouldn't spark. So I switched back to the injector scaling, and it's spot on. It's definitely not the scaling for the injectors. These are 1450cc injectors, FICs. They're a little big for my car. I'm going to explain to you what I'm going to do with those at the end of this whole freaking thing that I'm trying to explain to you guys. But they are notorious for being very difficult to tune, very difficult to idle and all that stuff. But my tuner, I believe, got it spot on, because I drove it for several years before this issue came up. So as of right now, scaling is not the issue. All right, so while I was in ECU Flash and Evo Scan, looking at everything, running diagnostics and all that fun stuff, I decided to check on the mass airflow, right? So I did some scaling. MAF scaling is kind of scary. I don't want to tweak it too much, but I did tweak it a little bit, and it made the idle a little bit better. But I think that's just a band-aid, right? If you can see there, I actually installed a new intake because the old one was the factory one, and the actual air filter was rubbing up against the frame, not high up like this one. So I ended up getting from a buddy of mine. He sold me his from a parted out Evo 8, I believe is what he had. And so the intake and the air filter itself came with the kit. I got a really great deal on it, and now it's really high up because I thought maybe the mass airflow sensor was kind of bouncing up against the frame itself, that it was causing some weird erratic issue to read. You know what I mean? And sure enough, it wasn't. So I, in EvoScan, it was showing the right frequency for the mass airflow sensor. It was reading correctly. So it's definitely not that. I left the MAF scaling where it is right now, where I tweaked it a little bit. I think I tweaked it maybe 10%. So nothing too crazy. I thought it was a little high, and I think it was a little high originally because of the issue that I've been having with idle anyways, and I think my tuner kind of figured that out at that point, but only because the injectors are super big. I'm actually idling at 1100, I believe right now, 11 something. It's really high. I've got comp 280 cams, so they're very, very aggressive, and so I have to idle at 1100. It's not a big deal. Like I said, I don't drive this car every day, so it's not too much of an issue, but it wasn't the mass airflow sensor. I do plan on going speed density one day, most likely the day I go back and get another tune, but as of right now, that's not the problem. I'm just trying to get the car to idle, you know what I mean? So what the heck could it possibly be? So I've checked the software side of things. Nothing's felt out of the ordinary other than when I was running a log, it's showing it's running really, really rich. I knew that. I can smell the gas in the car. Everything that I've labeled out, none of it has fixed the idle whatsoever in this car. I am so I'm at the point where there's only a few possible things left, and so that's where at the point we're at right now, right? So one of the first things, so the few possible things that it could be, and I hope I'm in a freaking screen right now that you guys can see. One of the few things that I think it could be is a faulty O2. When the O2 is faulty, even though it's brand new, right? I only have a couple hundred miles maybe on it. From the factory, the Densos can be bad. I bought another one. One of the only things, and hopefully you guys can comment for me if you know what it is I know that there's a heater. I think there's a heater in this one or the factory one. I have to either enable it or disable it. An ECU flash, I have no idea. You can tell me that. And I don't think that makes that much of a difference, because once this car is in closed loop, once essentially it's really warmed up, that's when it dies. When you start the car up, it idles fine, man, like totally fine. So I'm going to be replacing it today with this. If this doesn't fix the problem, then there's a couple things left over. Either I need a tune, right? And I'm going from cheapest to most expensive things. Either I need a tune, which is possible. I haven't had a tune in quite a few years in this car, but it's very weird that all of a sudden one day to the next, it just stopped idling. So I don't think it's a tune. I think it really is something mechanical, and I'm hoping it's something as simple as this. But the other thing that mechanically could be are the injectors, right? Maybe one or two of the injectors have failed, and it's just dumping fuel into the cylinders. So if this does not fix the problem, right, which we're going to try today, the next thing I'm going to do is just replace the injectors. It's just simple as that. At this point, I bought these injectors a really long time ago. I've been driving with these injectors like this for about 8 years now, and again, they've never had an issue up until 3 or 4 years ago. So half of its time I've had a problem. Is it the injectors? I don't know. But like I said earlier in the video, it could be, right? These are really tough injectors to just freaking tune with in general. And I don't need anything that big. 1450, before, technology injectors have come a long way. And I don't need something that big to run E85, which was the plan 8 years ago anyways, right? Was to run E85. I'm not going to run E85 anymore. I'm happy where I'm at. Last time I tuned this car, I tuned it at 340 to the wheels and 338 foot-pounds of torque, which is pretty good. Pretty happy with that. You don't need more than that for a daily driven car, or for a street car, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to break records out here. I just want a car that's reliable. So I will be replacing the injectors if this doesn't fix it. I'm probably going to replace the injectors anyways, something a little bit nicer. These injectors are notorious for being very fast pulsing. I don't know, man. Like, I think they need to go. So regardless if this fixes or not, the injectors are going to be gone. And that's it. Like, I don't know what else it could be. I've checked electronically. I've checked, you know, for grounds. I've read somewhere that there's a chance that maybe the ECU is grounding somewhere. That's insane. I have no idea. But one of the things I thought about sending is another freaking power wire from the alternator straight to the battery. Just have the second wire there. But that makes me nervous because it could ground anywhere along the path. But those are kind of the things that where I'm at, right? Like I'm just so at a loss. But those are the things I'm gonna do. O2 today, injectors. If this doesn't fix it, injectors in the future anyways, and then a tune. And if none of that fixes it, I'm going to freaking throw this thing off a cliff. I swear to God. I can't. I'm freaking over it, man. I drove this thing for like 8 years. Daily drove it for at least 5 or 6 of those. And it was fantastic. And it just all of a sudden one day, man. Frustrating as hell. Frustrating as hell. But let's go ahead and replace the O2 sensor. And go for a drive. And see what it looks like. We may get lucky. There we go. Okay. Cut the wire straight out. Don't need it. Because now I can stick a socket directly on that bad boy. What a bummer. That's like 50 bucks or whatever wasted. Alright, should be able to get in there now. And do it by hand. Let's see. There we go. And it's out. I just realized I recorded that whole segment and the mic wasn't running, so here's what I did. Quick rundown. I tried to remove the heat shield, but one of the bolts was stuck and I didn't want it to snap, so I just left it in place, but I didn't need to, which was really nice to remove it because I got down there. But yeah, the new O2 sensor is in, and we're gonna go for a drive. I need to plug the battery in and see how it does. I guess this video is gonna be titled 2 different ways. Either I can't believe I fixed the idle, or this car is gonna be the death of me. So it's gonna be one of those two. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for a drive. I have a wicked popping noise coming from the front driver's side of my suspension or something, man. Like it's popping that I can feel it through the gas pedal right now. I don't know what it is. It's pretty freaking bad. It just developed one day, all of a sudden, just like the white Evo, man. I can't win with these freaking cars, man. But that's pretty bad. But of course, the car fired up, no problem. I don't expect it to be perfect right now because usually after you reset the battery in this thing, it takes about 100 miles or so to moving stuff around here. 100 miles or so for the idle to relearn itself. God, that's so bad. I don't know why it's doing that. You guys can probably hear that. That's brutal. But I'm not expecting much right now. I just want to go right out and say it. Like, I don't expect this to fix it at all. I've done so many freaking things to this car at this point to try to get it to work, and so far nothing's worked. But you know, I'm just trying to go out on a limb and trying to figure out what is going on here. But I'm just trying to get the engine to warm up a little bit. I should be pretty close to being warm by now since this has been rolling for several minutes. So once the engine warms up, once I come to a stop, it should die. It should die. If it doesn't die, then I guess that the problem was fixed. It's still doing the same thing. It's still wanting to go down. It goes down to like 500 RPMs. And then it just died. So, yep, that did not fix the problem. So it looks like injectors and a tune are in the cards for me. I don't know why I was hoping I would have a different outcome. I feel like I'm going crazy. Isn't that the thing? You keep doing the same thing over and over again, hoping that to find different results, or however it goes. Except I keep doing a ton of things and none of it has fixed the idle. Dude, like I don't know how much money I've put into this at this point, a couple grand, just to try to get the idle to fix, to work, like with all the aftermarket parts and all the stuff. I was like, well, if I need to replace, I'll just replace that. Dude, it's unbelievable, man. It's unfreaking believable, but it is what it is. So I'll be getting injectors. That's the next step for this thing. And I'll keep you guys posted. Like I said during the drive, it usually takes about 100 miles to see if it actually works. And I don't think so, man. I'm not holding my breath, but we'll find out. I'll let you guys know in the comments below. But yeah, that's I know some people were asking for this video on how to correct an idle. That's everything I've done to this so far, and nothing has fixed it. So if anybody out there has any experience with Evos and trying to figure out how to fix their idle, what am I missing? What, I mean, like, seriously, other than the next two things, which is a tune and some injectors, man, what am I freaking missing? What am I doing wrong? Like, I just, I'm at a loss, man. I'm at a loss. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.